Perhaps we are live. There we go. Hello, all of you out there. My name is Richard Millett, the one, the only. And this is the Quarantine Stream. And we have our theme song. God. So beautiful. All right, let's get down to business. This was, it's called Philadelphia. This is written about a person that gave up. I haven't. I was in Philadelphia waiting for the maid. I glanced out the window down at kids younger than me, looking at like I did when I was 16, comparing biographies, completing each other's fragments, exchanging glasses, freezing enzymes on magnets. I stopped by the swimming pool and flicked a few crumbs out of the water. The convention got postponed into a parade. The police misplaced the exit and were unsympathetic to the problems they had failed to protect. Like a dinosaur shell had fallen and cracked the Liberty Bell, whose continued drone quit cell phones and traffic, and didn't cease until a line was cut to the Bryn Mawr bricks, which had gone unrestored since 1936. And Carrie, you saw the same kids I did. You knew it had come to this. Carrie, hold out your hand. I want to reprint the sponsorship because what was necessary has become arbitrary. I was watching a movie with a chapter of valleys separating the tombs and art that could be pointed to and the assertion to dance because they can't aim at you. And you'd been waiting since 1934, sleeping at Hepburn's door, while I wanted to be related to Betty Davis. Carrie, hold out your hand, because I don't just want entertainment. I want some dark victory to grace us. Those kids were rendered wet and recruited with the Tourette's of decade-old prints that took every context and ground it dull till there was no place left to articulate yourself through anything other than facts. Carrie, hold out your hand, because the distractions aren't safe. Hold out your hand, because your stage is my private place. Throat is very dry today. Now more than ever, this is called cruelty-free heroin. When the Guardian goes mad, the sun rains against their eardrums, indistinguishable from Morse code tapping on a copper plate. Yes, when the Guardian has gone mad, they're found singing love songs to tanks, draping staircases in flags, breaking car windows to decorate their faces with the glass. When the Guardian goes mad, they're captured pushing a pickaxe into an LED screen and detained for threatening to throw snakes at gas station attendants. When the Guardian goes mad, people suddenly remember to turn on AM radio and patiently follow guidelines before filing a full report. Though there are always doubters and passers-by who start conspiracies, the usual being that this was a planned distraction. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll arrive at every awards ceremony with a mirror in hand and a ribbon under their chin and make demands to review the voting process when they don't win. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll rue the day they lost control of their relationship, spending weeks hiring staff to bury paperwork they'll insist doesn't exist. If the Guardian goes mad, all their meals shall consist of orange peels pulled from chain-link fences and burned coffee flavored with molded peach preserves. Though there are always doubters ready to offer an opinion of unverifiable proof summarizing that death and maps are the only real measures of impact. And can you imagine being sick enough to fucking say that? If the Guardian cracks up, they'll spend bleak days envisioning trees committing suicide, grandmothers doing crystal meth for the first time, and gnats smeared into toothpaste. If the Guardian cracks up, 7 strangers stuck in a bank will claw at each other to seek cold air in the vault and wait for their families and firemen to arrive and dig them out. If the Guardian cracks up, pirates will walk their own planks and devour themselves once they hit the water, thrashing back at their gnashing teeth, running the seas red until hunter and prey are finally won. Ignorance, arrogance, the pest control man said unto me, when I was in Japan, I bought cherry bread in a can. I opened it with a knife and slid off the wrapper. The air bubbles stayed floating in my mouth, and I rolled them around until I returned back to the West. Bliss, Tolerance. The pest control man said unto me, "Sometimes my apartment building turns into a vending machine, and I get deposited out into the evening to provide goods and services for lucky couples with good taste and a few wandering dollars to rub together." How you guys doing out there? It's from Sunrise on the Canary Islands. It's called Sunset in Trinidad. Sunset, but the day's not lost. Sitting under the trees, gazing out at the vast expanse, palm fronds drifting down toward me in the lilting breeze, melted ice in my drink. If you can't remember the past, the same patterns will always last. Sunset, but the day's not lost, starting to slip into sleep and watch my dreams without disbelief. But I drag myself off the beach, through the unseen black and green, and have a late dinner in the canteen. This is called Thank You. It's another short one. I will see you in the streets. I will see you in the tower. I will see you in the restaurant. Your acceptance, your refusal makes you beautiful. Thank you for the phone call. Thank you for the letter. Thank you for the book. Your instincts, your intellect, your will makes you beautiful. This is called Pearls. I haven't read this one in a while. There'd been a robbery in her apartment. The dentist dabbed at the blood dripping off his drill and said, "That was a lot more than I expected." They had hit Carrie's place while she slept. The cops spent the early hours asking her questions, like did she have any enemies, perhaps somebody in her family. They told her to screen her calls, implored her to invest in some security. Ultimately, the only items of value taken were a few pieces of jewelry. Bankers' boxes were duct taped shut and loaded in the truck, their contents filled with scrap to go and get melted down by guys who didn't care whether it came from abandoned ironworks or was brass stolen from a Catholic school. Gregory never thought it would come to this. The ranch was facing foreclosure. He'd gotten a wedge of glass jammed into his hand, and his girlfriend had spent $25 she didn't have on an ugly antique horseshoe she hung upside down in the doorway. "I should have known when we were standing at your mother's grave that you wouldn't speak any longer. I should have known when we were standing at your mother's grave, walled in a cold fog." Gregory looked down at 4 inches of stained skin on his left forearm and thought what that symbol meant to him when he was 18, and then how gutted he felt when he noticed the girl at the bank had the same thing on her ankle. While the detective tried to focus on the negatives from the crime scene, intently scanning for details he might otherwise miss, but he was distractedly irritated by the accidental double exposures and dark splotches of silver salts on his fingertips. "I used to walk much quicker and look over my shoulder. Now I no longer worry. I used to walk much quicker, but now I've been absolved of responsibility. There was a beautiful storm last night that disrupted the 90-degree heat and blocked out the 6 p.m. sun, the smell of mud running over fresh blacktop, icy rain that came like the crest of a wave, cutting short the humidity, my clothes and hair getting drenched, the holes in the soles of my shoes letting water soak my feet as I walked in circles across the nearly empty lot." It's called Remember. Just 200 miles from where I used to live were the lakes and legends, afternoons crawling the canal, running in circles, scaling fences. Coming home curfewless, lying in bed, stretching your arms out in front of your face, fingers making shapes out of the light, album covers on the wall next to calendars with modern art. Do you remember when we used to work together? We went to the swimming pool and recorded the kids laughing, splashing around to use in a sound collage. Those kids are grown-ups now. We went to the quarry and watched the slabs of rocks being hauled away by trucks. We'd stay and talk until the time silenced our throats. Those rocks are all buildings now. Do you remember when we used to work together? We used to never worry about money, only if there was enough to have fun for the week. Sometimes I still think we could be there again. The band played No Side to Fall In, and you clapped and sang along. I used the same words the next night, and you said I was wrong. Do you remember when we used to work together? Standing in your mom's house, her pizza cooling in the kitchen, your hair enclose a ragged curtain, playing your guitar, glorious crystalline shards. You asked me to write a brass score. I figured it couldn't be that hard. And do you remember when we used to work together? It's called Cactus Wren. We were home. We were home to Membreño Apaches. We were home to Yaquis, without walls or laws. For 370 years, they built their temples, traveled as equals, people of the willows. The sun is stronger than the wind. The air was never humid until the irrigation, until the borders. The retirement, built from bricks made of clay, the Scisson cast iron clear chrome eggs. There's an angry rain falling tonight in the desert. Jagged drops splatter in the sand. Bobcats running for cover. Leopard lizard looking for rocks to hide under. There's a lot of people without power. It's called... How are we doing out there? We're having some technical issues earlier in the day before this started. So I want to make sure everything's going okay. All right. It's called Wax Fruit. Like a shift starting at 4 a.m. without benefits and security, they knew the ex-poet lied, or tried, and when he arises, smiles, and deeply breathes the morning air, he's filled with daylight. And his friends dream of him in heaven, while he dreams of seeing faces in rock formations. Like the town crier lying supine on the floor next to an unplugged vibraphone, he imagined he's on a source mission to recover 93 rare fish from the Indian Ocean and having an unfolding series of unexplainable epiphanies bounce off his eyelids and into his ears, private collages whose messages leave him inarticulate and unwilling to even try to make sense of his most loyal admirers. Instead, he thinks about moving earth between his fingers, the smell of tomatoes on the vine in the humid summer morning, and pretending he's on a cold cement floor in a locker room where the janitor won't find him, and he can think about his breathing and align all his impulses into an imperceptibly perfect balance. Around the pool, the wrestling raccoons eventually stop to drink from a can of soup, while the deer in the reeds, the bats in the trees watched, along with myself, smelling the stack of rice paper and chewing pulp, the lemon juice in a simple accidental circle next to my pen, and postcards from Nebworth. As my attention wandered, I was staring up, pensive, and with little use for amusement, picturing my peers in their futures in wheelchairs asking a physical therapist for help. And in an hour of uncertainty, one can become fragile and feel safe in that space for years, repeatedly living out the fear of being put there again. We become fragile and lose sense of what's natural. We become fragile and not recover what's hidden. Become fragile and ignore colors in the spectrum. Become fragile and wonder why we're living. Become fragile and think there won't be redemption. The witness said she'd never seen the like of you before. The rumpled polka dot dress, the mismatched flats stretched wide across your feet, the misapplied makeup, drawing the eye away from the razor burn and stubble, marking your white legs, the thin black wig framing your face, but mostly, of course, the chipped front tooth smile of your uncontrolled jubilance as you skipped down the staircase. But in that moment, it was unbeknownst to you that your associates had missed. And while you carried out the planned exit, your target had already given you all the slip. And though there were theories around the handling of the case, despite strict orders, the tapes were never erased. cold. Your love brings me peace, your beauty brings me fantasy, your thoughts bring me reality. Our love, so naked and pure, of the dirt, of the clouds, gives me courage, your dreams complete mine, our circle forever revolving. I had the idea that maybe I might read one more older one. But I'm looking through and I'm not really sure that I want to do now. Originally, I wasn't going to do any older ones. But you know how these things are. Excuse me. Yeah, the hell with that. All right. All right. Citizenship. We'll do Fingerhouse. Where should I go? Empty and without suggestion, dry bathtub, antiseptic self, turquoise pottery carefully washed and not included in collection debates and can catalog itself. A black and white television crackling on the last analog signal, transmitting drip brush pixelation to friends who have never met before dawn, with unbent antennas and tinfoil knobs. No larger connection and no network without notice or critical thought. Pure broadcast. Where should I go? To a cricket's lake where Mona Lisa and George Washington's faces urgently run by on filmy soap transfers until they burst into digital diagonal scribbles that shock sleeping bluebirds and hunting robins, where austere diagrams of skeletons are traced into colored chalk onto trees and oil sticks litter the walkways, where oysters cover jewelry fallen overboard and forgotten, where flashlights find glimpses into windows and fluoride is poured into jugs of cola. Where should I go? With a shopping bag full of batteries returning a stolen bike to its parent company, walking in between unclean delivery trucks in need of repair, while raw-toned steel whistle air floats on wisps of strawberry hair and accelerated voices and nonsensical 10-second annoyances, a magician perfecting an illusion which ends with them curling up and sliding down a tree and then pretending to be asleep, while assessing what the crowd seems to think. Then a throne is carried on, seating a man in a parchment crown and wrapped in beach towels. Where should I go? Into a kitchen with aluminum knives and nurses in white lab coats and blue rubber gloves, rolls of tissue paper and unfolded t-shirts and personalized engraved nameplates. Where should I go? Knees to the chest, laying on the cool ground, scissors, heels pressed together, toes towards the sun, back to the cool ground. Where should I go? Knees to the ground, slow flash, minimal chest, a pair of scissors sparkling, oxygen fits, a pair of scissors laying on the cool ground. All right, it's called Sacrifice the Satellite. Moments before dawn, phone ringing, unable to suss if it was happening from impressions born in shallow sleep while lights flicked on neighbors' windows. Or as the drift seized me back in, we were gun runners trapped in a house, detained by police, threatened by rivals, but I was able to slither out a side door and snuck away to a cafe where I was supposed to summon assistance, but decided instead, the hell with them. I was called to a room. The walls of the hallway were blue, and when I entered, there they sat, looking exactly as they did in 1984, when one spoke there was no sound from their mouths, but the words synced loudly in my skull. Crushed flowers float downstream in the rainwater, and homemade smokestacks drip steam on half-awake blades of grass. New nuns count the gray hairs of their predecessors as they scan old photographs. Will they question who's alive in heaven? Are their words papering a mountain? They will have a moment where they behold the beauty of an empty screen or unplowed, snow-covered street. Lost in a world between are the souls who only dream when looking up. Thick, shimmering splotches of gray grease liquefy and start to drip down rust-colored walls of skins, watched by a babe with a flashbulb embedded in their wrist, who sits on gouged black and gold tiles in the center of a disused ballroom dance floor, among carelessly flung piles of metal-pronged monitors, cords, discs, spilled coffee grounds, broken vodka bottles, and asymmetrical platinum wigs. Every year there's a whisper the inventory will get a clean transfer. Winston Dubois knew the recovered money was wrapped in a mosquito net and secured in the back of a carriage. The horse stopped in front of an Air Force base, which got inadvertently captured on videotape with the footage dissected by theorists for decades. Desmond Hampton learned Tony Chamberlain had double-crossed him as he drank milk and clapped erasers together outside his classroom. His signature had been forged and hidden throughout the system. The best brother thinks, if only I were a CEO buying companies whose names I don't know and could leverage my credibility to simultaneously flaunt my status and champion myself as an obscurity. The oldest best brother thinks, if only I were an oligarch and had a tapestry of machinery to do what I want, live in seclusion, invest in rare art, and pay for a hooker who looks like my daughter. Lost in a world between are the souls who only dream when looking up. The beams of starshine light land everywhere and leave valley-wide fingerprints for 7 years. Minute glass tubes can shiver without bursting squid ink on glistening diamonds laid out on linens, spirals scrawled on maps with the location leading inside a puzzle box, while fungus slides up to a microscope and mixes with vinegar and bleach. Circles of sapphires line the linoleum tile with a surface so improbably clear it mimics a screen. Lost in a world between are the souls who only dream when looking up. Called Dancing with the Skeleton Key. Again, now more than ever. Dancing with the Skeleton Key pinned under my belt the night after I had had 2 simultaneous dreams in ocular split screen. One where a white-tailed fawn galloped to my front door and another where my brother couldn't sleep. I'm dancing with the skeleton key tied on a twine cord around my neck, remembering when my sister was locked in a minivan and stranded in a parking lot outside of Boston. She kissed the windows and ate the tape in the cassette deck. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in my unopened mouth, tucked behind my wisdom teeth and obscured by my tongue. I have memories that my sister still won't believe, and I miss the 20th century. It could have been so much better. I'm dancing with the skeleton key, scotch taped to my arm. When I was in school, the vice principal gave himself a heart condition trying to figure out who had stolen from a convenience store and then boasted about it on a blackboard. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in the grotto of a dilapidated Catholic church, where the priest once confessed to me that after each funeral he performed, the only way he could raise his spirits was by making uneasy music with the organist. I'm dancing with the skeleton key concealed in an alley, while bells chime at midnight near the railroad and kids with no curfew dodge between dashing headlights on their way to play hide and seek in the park. I'm dancing with the skeleton key laid on the floor of a garage while my brother draws out diagrams on poster boards, connecting lines from consequences of thoughts to isolated islands of thinking, divided by unintended regression of actions. I'm dancing with the skeleton key while I'm safe at home, looking at sealed bags of clothes that I stopped wearing years ago while I was running for mayor on an unconfirmed platform of leaking information about the governor. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in an adjacent office because the evidence my brother uncovered just got delivered to the lawyer, and he predicts it will make the judge jump and remove any condemnation from his mouth. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in a strip mall that used to be a swimming pool, and before that a man-made hill that covered demilitarized waste trucked over from a Floridian base, and it will still take 100,000 years before any of it reaches its half-life. I'm dancing with the skeleton key clasped tightly in my hand as I watch my sister in the mirror speak sentences with one word and plant orchids next to power lines in the backyard. Then she dots the driveway with empty jars to accurately measure the rainfall. I'm dancing with the skeleton key in my pocket, moving loosely with me. My brother used to cry bitterly to our parents every time he got a ticket, refuting each offense, denying he did any of it. I'm dancing with the skeleton key, sliding uncomfortably in my shoe, but the nuisance helps give me the presence of mind to always hold up what I was taught, that when the rent is due, it's better to be full and well slept than to hand over a blank check. I'm dancing with the skeleton key, pressed into a book, watching leaves in the wind, and a novelist at a press conference, performing fake sign language, hoping it will get him the attention he wants for trying to revive the printed word. It's called Canary Milk. Sweltering sun in the forecast, but it's raining right now. Retired teens nostalgic for holograms as their granddads watch rocks roll on the ground and wonder when they can be farmers in glass pods on Mars. While Amanda eats factory fresh candies and laughs jaggedly at vulgar stories. The boy who awoke in the toy aisle one evening moved more elegantly than his mother had ever seen as he picked items off a worn, well folded list before deciding he'd rather have a pet eel instead, while Amanda watches her neighbors bickering and daydreams deleted scenes from their past. The delivery man is ready for the weekend as he ignores reports on the European heat wave, instead marveling about the new house on his route and how much it must cost each month to keep the swans fed and the water in the lagoon fresh, while Amanda feels no urgency to call back her agency and laughs at people voluntarily photographing their chores. Called Cheltenham Girl. Like a cloud, beautiful sound, standing before the signal. When the light shines on the ground, it reflects off the wheel. Parking lot next to the short building on the edge of the desert. She sees it's harder to be a number when you're starting as a visitor. Cheltenham Girl. Clouds can't create the shapes they make or hold on to any rain, precious, temporary, holding no domain. No machines, no cell phone or computers clicking through broken links. Credit card, social security needed. She will refuse to register. Cheltenham Girl. Every day another wish, another mile, closer to the point where I can portray it. Until then, all I'll do is sing to her spirit. She will return. All right, this is called White Apple. The audience glares. The audience is alone. Projected onto the city's moving mouths, upside down, silent, cement, struggles for breath, lets the water run, walks with a stilted, failing gait. The water runs in the documentary behind the page, a lesson in taking what you need, wanting to know so bad, so bad, so thirsty, so eager for the seed. Roman columns, deep shadows, buttressed arches, fallen collective breach, eyes cast upon the outer circles, eyes cast upon the oval rings over the sea, eyes cast on eternity, eyes cast on maternity. Then across the alley, across the street, he can see cracks in the statue's feet. He crashed his car against a building, against a lamppost, fluttering fingers ivory, dancing around darting mercury. The survivalist juts forward, head leering off the shoulders, sees the wet walkways glistening, over enunciates to nobody listening. His face an impression in plaster, refers to a thought he had earlier, but it's too austere to articulate. He's had too much sugar to hold his hands straight. As the glass carton breaks, he collapses, the cream running parallel over his veins. The audience on stage, the public face encased in a clear plastic capsule, and evenly explained the rules typed on an eggshell card, displayed underneath each remark, catalogued and critiqued, each dismal dismissal a prized antique. Washed clean when the day ran dry, the only dot in the satellite sky, the audience needing permission, needing drink, needing oxygen again, the combination hidden in international waters, the shadows shining on the light. Everything in plain sight secret, a camera on its tripod spinning a circular angle, a code transferred, captured, held by an ascending angel. All are welcome, but come open-handed, without guests or family. You'll enter easier naked, and your intentions won't be mistaken. Jagged rocks under the rushing river, which lead to the lake. The scene is a remake, a three-point star shape superimposed with stretching hands, making a cityscape, a cold exhaling, creating hovering clouds. Silent. Take out the sound. I want to hear the rushing. I want to hear the pounding. I want to hear the happening after the action. The empty air in my ears. I want to hear the flying birds make their calls and hear the echo reverberate off ancient stone walls. It's called the Gauntlet. seeing her sister falling, sound of the puncture. As he sits in his box, she sits in hers, her face smeared tears, pleading for understanding. He'd learned his expression and how not to hear the wailing of either sister. Alone he knows when his aim is perfect, he's untouchable. When his aim is perfect, they stay quiet. When his aim is perfect, they show him respect. When I ask, they bring me water, they bring me clothes, they bring me paper. I am always my own possession. Sky-riding virgins breathing exhaustedly. You can't keep singing in a grave that doesn't exist. It's unrealistic and disingenuous. I'll never answer back or visit your dreams, no matter what you think. If you insist on saying farewell, then you must leave, and don't keep me in your own private purgatory. Cracking gravel, image of entrails. I'll tell you what to do when you're half asleep. I'll erase your ability to succeed. I'll eat your concentration. I went to a party, and the host asked where my invitation was. I had no thoughts as I looked at the lapels of his white tux. He looked down at me and said, "Richard, it's up to you to decide if you want to get inside." And without a pause, I said, "Of course I want that." And in the center of the circular driveway, the butler and stable boy, both ungroomed, face each other with unbroken smiles and unblinking eyes, each studying the other, not daring to break the social contract, both hoping their requests are filled. On the spiral staircase, two cousins sitting dressed up as girls, pretending to be sisters, holding a seance only they can see, trying to conjure Milton or Wells out of eternity, writing telepathic lists of possible offerings. In the family crypt, two tabby cats sink their claws into a scrap of silk carried down from the master bedroom. When they've grown bored, they leave the stray threads and torn shreds to blow away. At the bar, the maid and courier fleetingly forget their responsibilities. Her spiraling locks, the gentle powder of her perfume, make the courier stop what he's whispering in mid-sentence and move closer, the two feeling each other breathing and listening to sugar blues beam in from the bandstand. At the service entrance, the plumber and the chef only briefly met, one asking the other to borrow a pen. Then the plumber went to clear the water, and the chef finished the notes for their meal plan. We sat on the cold stone in the rippling dusk, and I pointed to a building across the street that we'd walked past before, and I said, "I used to think that everything we built would be demolished if we split, but now I'm certain that's not true. It's been built, and that exists forever. It's just, now it's a museum instead of a home." She didn't say anything, but I could tell that she agreed. How we doing out there? Okay, good. All right. This is what I've done several times for various reasons. It's called Flowers at the Foot of the Cave. Swinging light bulb above a cracked basement window, a painting depicting the creation of creation, and a makeshift bed, I made up a new name for you that I will only keep in my head. My head. Look at the jewel resting in the bottom of the wooden cup, or the stack of handwritten sheets explaining the steps of the ritual in rich, deep red. The names of everyone there exist in my head. My head. Charcoal renderings of saints ripped from a magazine and pinned to the door. Dented bits of metal shaped to make a mosaic and pushed into the floor. Quarter-inch thick spray-painted silver ribbons looped like ringlets in the air, and the floating stray white veins from a feather landing on your hair. Here I sit half childish, with freshly washed clothes strewn over the chair. A tray with orange peels, melon rinds, and empty glasses rests balanced on the table's edge while I'm reading a map leading to a room more colorful than the womb, where I can overhear things other than gurgling and organs rushing. But still, this will always be in its infancy, because love is where Genesis greets infinity, and for proof you can look in my eyes, even though I won't confirm or deny how much of this is true, but I trust that will get worked out by you. This is it's called the Vatican Vaults. Shelves lined with caskets, ripe fruit piled in baskets. Sugar cubes and teacups rattle as saucers are dragged across tablecloths. Outside, a crowd sits murmuring. A harmonium coughs discordantly off the spokes of a bicycle wheel, and snakeskin is carefully wrapped around palms. Two men each wear a veil, one off mauve, the other pink lady red. Gravel sits at the bottom of stained glass vials, and mink pelts are smoothed out over tiles. Three elderly spinsters raise their voices in praise, their weathered hands shaking at the sky. Gold medals tied around their waists reflect the sun directly into children's eyes. Four blind beggars fool the crowd into believing they're brothers who compete by tying knots and rope faster than any comers, the act only ending at dusk when they split their spoils. Stars roll around the moon, back and forth from end to end. Clouds erase them away when each new day begins. And we'll attempt to do water. This one goes well. I know the first time I ever did this one, I had musical accompaniment, and it lasted like 20 or 30 minutes, and I completely blew my voice out, and we had I don't know, like 90 minutes of material to do, and so then I didn't perform it until, so that would have been 2005. I didn't perform it again for just until a couple weeks ago. I think I did it at the first of these streams. So anyway, water, 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 water. It would be good if motion could evaporate and then solidify into a form we view in flux, or be on course to be boundless and sing in the sea, aiming a voice at the sky. Never again I'd read a tattered sign. My body no longer closed in the folds of dirt and clay, but windblown and awake, seeing droplets in rivers become oceans and lakes. The salt darting through the air ends my hunger. It cleans the shore and surprises in its permanent structure as the molecules become lighter and smaller. Dance in the water, woman and man. Thou shalt have a boat, thou shalt save a fish, thou shalt be steering. When the boat comes in, thou shalt have a vision up in the crow's nest. Dance in the water, woman and man. Dance in the water, dance for the birds, dance for the wind, dance for everyone on land. Thou shalt see the king before the revolt. Thou shalt find a partner, one to love and to hold. Man will be woman and woman will be man. Dance in the water to the perch and to the sand. I once lived on the Salisbury plain. We'd come from Ireland and ate only grain. We changed their battle hymns and substituted our names. We sang boldly, we shall rule the waves. Never, never, ever, 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 ever shall we be slaves. We sailed to the Pacific, fighting equinoctial gales. We felt liberated by the sight of sharks, storms, and whales. We gathered strength and survived the death of Captain McCahey, for we would have been despised by his ghost if we stopped facing the sea. Now we're outward bound toward the Gulf, to the Indies and back around. We'll gather gifts wherever we dock, and when we're headed homeward, we'll bring silver galore and a Persian cat and a camel fur, and you won't wear those cast-offs no more. Now, haul away the bowline, the ship is rolling. It's a tough life we merchants undergo, and we don't give a damn how hard the winds blow. The sailors gave us a bad name. They let us fall through the weary waves. They throw a hatchet on the floor of their boat, and if it doesn't sink, you'll hear them gloat. But if we roar out of order, never again would we see the sea. No more, no more, no more. We sail a northerly gale to our island home in the county of Cork. Our mainmast sprung, our pitching done, fire in our stomachs, salt water in our lungs. Now haul away the bowline, the ship is rolling. Ocean, 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 ocean. Up in Lando Groats is where we dealt with Sergeant Croon and his Tipperary officers of the photogenic order. They're a fine bunch of lads, though they were given to delusion fits of interpretation. Our encounter centered on the family crest, which featured 2 yellow lightning bolts and 4 gallstones removed from the queen, as a reminder that you must suffer to wield authority. Endless ocean, endless ocean. I moved where I could see you, away from places I couldn't see through. I threw away my socks and shoes to be waiting at your shore, endless ocean. My blood is all departed. I stopped the things I'd started. My organs are unguarded. I see your waves get parted by the tide and its rippling mood swings. Endless ocean, endless ocean. You sing so perfectly. I am in love inside the cotton of your warmth. Endless ocean. I'm calm and now I'm here. Your reflection is so clear. The sky is just a mirror, an imitation of you. Endless ocean. I don't need to talk. I found what I have sought. And to you I will walk. Endless ocean. This is one I haven't read yet. Radar Grain. It's called Insects. There were 2 tubes with oil, a deadline with a knife and foil, and when all my teeth rotted out, my gums were weak. There were crowds outside to hear me speak. And it didn't matter till you fell asleep and have a dream that was complete. I kicked my watercolor, I struck some flame, I formed a noise until you came. The hack woodcutters near the town are calling me out tonight alone. I think there might be some bad drama, a one act of consequence no witness will remember. But they don't write as well as you. Their hands are big. They grab on too easily to someone else's story. They just spell out feelings that are so ordinary. And you have my plot, and you have my bail. You put the money order in the mail, and I race down the boulevard to get a glance as you walk toward the Landing Sparrow, the fresh like roadkill, the discount store with brown pill bottles. We took off our pajamas till you twitched and got sick, and when I held your head on the sink, I looked left and began to think, you aren't sincere for dying, not sincere at all. There's nothing sincere about dying. And you're telling me you're not here when we burn the lights and break the mirror. The room is black, but your sound can follow. The edge has gotten sharp and hollow. On the trees outside, there are insects humming, like liquid silk weaving through the screen. Take your medication. They won't crawl upstairs again. And since we'll see each other dead, tonight we will stay unfed. Trying to decide what to read is so difficult sometimes. I usually have some sort of idea, but still, it doesn't necessarily make it easier. Hope you're all having fun out there, staying safe. Stay home, stay home. Stay home and stay safe. It might not be the greatest idea to trust what certain people are telling you. It's a vague enough statement that won't offend anybody, right? Because I would hate to do that. This is called The Needles. The dock 70 feet in back of me as the sun rotated to the cloudless mid-sky. I saw, "You should keep my letter so that it serves as a reminder," carved into a 16-foot long block of pink limestone. In front of me was a sea of black hair and white fabric. A man in iguana-colored boots was a private parade. The air was damp and smelled like salty sediment. A sandpiper coughed into my ear. In prior decades, this would have been a confined testing environment stacked with medical supplies and sterilized instruments, while bleached cotton strips turned the skin around my nails lighter. Pried out of the wilderness of incestuous dreams, ripped posters, and unreliable oral histories. Deer curled up in sandy, shallow puddles, trails of red ants eating holes through discarded cabbage. Soft green eyes on dress uniforms, before entrance into a former Methodist church, with baby blue walls and royal blue sacristy doors. Reptile eggs eaten by a small group of women, who then washed their hands in citrus-saturated water and wrapped their fingers with copper wire. In a monument at dusk surrounded by silence, outlined with jagged stones and chipped jewelry. Fox hunters riding by, with a new hound who they yell at and threaten to whip as each of its tentative selections are rejected. The Lord Mayor's house is built to buttress against resistant forces, all amid a slow, swollen syrup that pools and then runs downhill to the man-made lake. Unobstructed view and pristine wings, piercing siren as though it was a current or a call to worship. A chalice with tarantulas, a flagpole wavering in its stand, chickens' eyes rolling sideways as they travel at unnatural speeds. Cigarette smoke blown into a bowl of strawberries, fingerprints left in wet paint, fresh milk pumped from each breast. My friend who can foresee pregnancy and electricity through a wall has their moods move like montages in a film. My friend without terminology, whose nature is a catapult, who can walk through a maze without a fever. My friend who finds destiny dancing on purple and pink nights with dirt around their ankles. From the upper window I witnessed a slow splintering of demonic demonstrations. In my right hand were coins melted together. On my feet were shoes of another, as I checked the tags on my clothes to learn my identity. Through the upper window, across 7 streets, into the parking lot where disused missiles decompose, diagonal gold and gray roads sprayed clean of tar and debris. Low-flying planes obscure the upper window, where a virginity pageant marches from the shower and concludes with forearms rested on the top rung of a ladder. Breathless dizziness, reading large handmade maps, desperate for hydrogen, dull bulbs and shovels, eyes closed for hours. All deaths are a cataclysm. Rinse the plaque from your mouth. Cut long muslin swaths and give them away. All deaths are a cataclysm. Rinse the cement. Don't try to trace ghosts. All deaths are a cataclysm, and what stands are bloody trees deciphering wordless moans. The invisible dust falling on a table in the woods, swept away in haste. The invisible dust falling on a chain-link fence at the border, wafted away before it rusts. The invisible thread woven around nurses' legs while administering instructions to infants. The invisible threads coursing through fibrous recall. Innocence is wasted on the inexperienced. Each speck is an unnoticed city, an English symmetrical opening. Each strand is a bird on the river in a King's Indian defense. Wax seal stamps poured onto a clock while its mechanisms start surging, go into the unpaved adjacent highways and remember. Remember for the benefit of whom? The sermon restated to sleeping citizens weary from work. Remember for the benefit of whom? A lion in a tent, gnashing the last of its dinner. Remember for the benefit of whom? A slouching, passive general, inept at telling a catalog from blueprints. Protective exoskeleton, exclusive phone booth opposite the swimming pool in a home in Beverly Hills, constructed in the late 40s. Watery exoskeleton, fluttering drama as the mounted trophies change colors when passing trains sound their whistles. Sensory exoskeleton, in parks of dewy, gently curved hills, designed by anxious architects to absorb all tastes and scents. No one reaction or army of thought, no weaning or well-meaning practice can smudge or even expunge the unadorned evidence in the immeasurable elements, and now a grasp toward a cataract of menstruation stored in a triptych of cases. Tender veils lift lightly in the breeze, briefly betraying the horse's forward focus. Confirmed miracles in the dial tones droning from underneath the unexplored aisles. A cherry, a maiden, a cup, and I lay down for now, hopeful the parcels I sent for will arrive on time. So I normally don't look at comments, but I see that there is one. By the way, hello, Van. Uh, the echo is trippy. Um, the echo is unintentional, and it's just the rinky-dink built-in microphone on this computer. Maybe I'll do a test run for next week. Unless you like the trippiness, which I certainly don't have a problem with it. All right. This is called Blue Soaked Scepter. The kink in my neck that runs to my kidneys, distracting me from movies I've long memorized and repeating quotations I've lived inside of. And I've no desire to rewrite history that doesn't concern me. When what I didn't know already felt familiar, when I saw the inscription on my commemorative plaque had been worn back to smooth silver, when I slipped behind the mist, changed clothes, washed my hands, and shaved, with no light and no intention of anyone seeing my face for a while, I was willingly walked through a coal-stained city lot and deposited in the back seat of an already running, windowless army green car, which was then locked from the outside. Mary, had I abandoned my practice, committed an indirect affront in my brief absence? My name is Keith. The beggar at my door raised his arms but soft, while I listened to his parables that had no center. My name is Luke. With an auspicious mistress beside me, I looked at a baby looking out a window and fluttering street signs. My name is Julia. My temper was gentle as I read a sermon called, "Are You Here to Celebrate the Death of Death?" My name is Giles. I wish that I had been obscured when my ears were bitten with endearment while I was plainly ignored. My name is Grace. I was observed by 3 people whose accounts proved suggestible and fractured. My name is Abigail. I faced hard construction when I, in truth, spoke forcefully about my forged fingerprints. My name is Morgan. I spent twilight emptied, save for sketching a red tunic on bent paper. My name is Brooke. I was registered in a hotel under an assumed name and made lists of families that I pitied. My name is Gabriel. I singed my hair and clothes trying to be recalled. The sky had been moonless for 29 nights. Why couldn't I stay? I was bothered by the way the streetlights hit the trees and reflected off the leaves. I took a knife and short length of rope. 6 hours later, I'm waiting for you to arrive, carrying a scepter and wearing a breastplate with frayed shoulder blades and exhausted eyes. I'm waiting for you to arrive, sitting cross-legged on the sodden deck with wayward souls who were barely seen. I leapt off the ledge and was soon out of haunt as I climbed the concave shores, wondering if I should forage, catch a gudgeon, or eat unbruised fruit that had fallen. The gravelly, guttered soil gave way to encroaching forest dense with rows of weighted, wet purple limbs that succumbed to gravity and wind. Then, abruptly, I was in the center of a champaign, and the only objects I found were short rows of tree stumps and stones, each carved with the query, "What made you look here?" I jaunced away into the odd even and was again pursued by the thicket's reach. The thorns licked my calves. The ant-hills shone like pebbled glass. I brushed past a fog with a violet tongue and discolored teeth, who gulped for relief while his body remained static like a splayed thread in aspic. I made my way into the anters and found myself prating, "Prithee, pray tell what you remember of working your hands into the mud and feeling it curl under your fingernails. It feels like a relic reunited with its original setting after having been figured lost or only seen in a dream. Betimes I glanced around for the traveling lamp while standing beside the curvature, hearing myself call to datelessly abandoned vizards and leasing and be faithfully young-eyed. I returned once more to the champagne and sat among the stones in silence. I received no visions or visitations, no inspiration to invent an incantation, and in this vacuum of communication I only experienced the sense or perchance suggestion of the imposing press of eras and atmosphere. And now I noticed this restless weather, shy beams of sunlight, moving sideways through the strings of remaining rain. All right, we're gonna do a few more, then that'll be that. So it's called Animals. You soak the carpet in lingo, scratching the hair off your arms. You kicked out the stranger, ridiculed the superstitions he held on to. You lie restless, staying clean, wiping sweat, and I think about this quite a lot, pressing the grooves of my fingerprints into my forehead, sending an idea that reminds us both. Hell, there was another plan, in crumbles of sugar. I saw wild motion. I hunched towards it. I looked at it happening. It felt like a parade, elephants awake and gallant. I had been so nerve-stacked, the loops of my heartstrings matched my eyelashes. I wore a royal blue jacket with gold sleeves. There was a swirl that came from the trumpet, a triumphant sound of repeating. There were banners hung from the tusks. My fingers had gone purple from clutching the baskets next to me. American Gothic didn't have this many thorns or any sepia tones to run on. I was welcomed in the house. I ate the cracker offered. The speech heated steadily. I found a pit of flower seeds. The displays had chanting and chips of bone and silver, a collection for the prison and dried hides of hunters. There wasn't an explosion, but then the ground bled. I swam through the cracks. All the plants had red stems. I want to be new, roll on straw, get my ribs bit by a tiger. I have memories about you, that cackle. I can see you bumming a cigarette from your grandkids with a sizzled mouth and bald patch. When you were younger, you were springing your superhero underwear, but you couldn't be my life, and we never paid rent to each other. And there's so many people who don't know where to go to battle. I can climb to the top of the bungalow and jump off the second level, kick my legs on the way down, and get strawberry Italian ice from Freddy's after. I can climb into a Nova, and when my foot goes through the floorboard, I'll flag down a passerby, pay for a ride on the thresher. Wolves that land can burst into fire, deer protect themselves, and bears break into grain silos. Rabbits are the rats of the desert and crawl to eat the mice on the plains. When the evening is still and quiet, the candles are glowing violet. The sultry air makes you drop your cares, your doubts, and your frowns. You descend the stairs and head into town. Walk through the leafy glade, float on the ground beneath you. Walk all night with your gaze fixed on your lover's face. Sing a song of love that you learned from above. Dream of her caress, the nape of her neck, and know that you'll never part. When the evening is still and dark, light remains in your heart. You feel so free, smashing on wing, you could be skipping stones all alone and not mind. Walk through the leafy glade, float on the ground beneath you. Picture her delicate face and ring the bell at her gate. Sing her a song of love. Feel your joy soar like a dove. And when you're at home reading her poems, you know that you have found someone who can make all your dreams come true. This one quotes Van. This is a Van, if you're still around, Van does an extraordinary version of Larry Graham preaching the Bible, or, as he put it, what I say is like the Bible. But that's not the quote that's in here. The quote that is in here is Van, as Larry Graham, said, "It'll be the apex of manifestation," which I was particularly taken with. This is called White Cello. Talk to me. I'm in the open window. I'm not in time, but I've got your watch and I need to learn to play this white cello. Scratch the surface. I'm on the shore with a can of sugar. It's never bitter. I'd really rather be playing, though. I like the white strings and white bow. That's not her. That's her, was the simplest thing you said today. I'm still and still reeling with no moments except now. You don't possess any microscopes, so I will take the telescope. I'm trying to be angelic, which isn't easy after getting desensitized with disappointments every night, eating fresh vegetables while planning, and you already know, and then you talk me out of it. You don't have a pistol in your waistcoat. Your teeth aren't flecked with flax seeds. My misjudgments are my own, and most are unknown. And just because I'm a pacifist doesn't mean that you can abuse me. And speaking of myself, notice me. I'm standing next to the tree where the guy crashed the stolen car, then got out and ran for it. And I can behave for over 100 days, and I've squandered my efforts and so much goodwill that sometimes I still need to convince myself that I should try to take lessons to play at all. But I'm sure you want me to, and I know what I can do. And with that, we're not missing anything. We're humming songs through the phone. We're midnight movers. We're not. And don't be the guy on the bike in the right lane racing for his life against rush hour traffic in the morning. I know you are, and you know that I care, and I feel like I'm Clark Kent dressed in primary colors, and I just haven't taken off my glasses yet. She said, as long as it's not evil. And I said, I cannot be evil. Not right now, but it's the rising sun. It's a hard boiled egg. It's basil. It's a blue charm. I just want to play the white cello. I just want to sit in a circle and think about it some more. So, are we going to wrap this up or are we going to test people's patience? No, I'm just thinking out loud. It's warm communication. See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm going to change some channels. Quarters, nickels, and all sunbathers must be wearing a blue suit. It'll be like a reverse safari where they put lions, cheetahs, and tigers in a truck and drive them around to show them people shopping and walking down the street or pumping gas. It'll be the apex of manifestation. Or it'll be a suburban safari where some guy named Greg gives you a little pith helmet and plastic binoculars, and you wait under his kitchen table for the cat to use the litter box. Why does it gotta be white? Never heard from before. Advertising space available. Clean, clear water, and, of course, the tastiest tomatoes. It's called Always All the Time. Actually, we're going to do something remarkable and very special before we do Always All the Time. Hopefully, we'll do something remarkable and very special. We'll see. We'll see how remarkable and how special it is. It might not be either. We shall find out. All right, let's go for it. This is called Always All the Time. Now then, now then, now then. The weather is in the sea, gravityless moment caught and dotted with cherry trees and colored pencils. There is very little in life that matches what I feel when you smile back at what I whisper to you. We're in the room and out of nowhere, looking at an inlet together in letters and circles. Like a slit in a curtain, like a fluttering bird ready to bathe, like an oxidized copper fountain, I want to be with you always, all the time. Like a white shirt with a fresh grass stain, like a streetlight breathing air, like waving from the top of a ladder, you plan all the plans, always, all the time. Like a strawberry on the counter, like fingernails washed clean, like a bee being curious of a new flower. You are adorable, always, all the time. Like pickled ginger on salmon, like a workbench in the sun, like an invention imagined. We are here with each other, always, all the time. Like a cat cornering a grasshopper, like a licked stamp pressed with a thumb, like a rectangle with unbroken corners. You are mine, I am yours, always, all time. Like a coral pink butterfly heading to me, You're looking through your jeweled eyes, I'm waiting for your surprise. A birthday card, an aquarium hung on the wall, a memory in a vein swimming around, arriving late to hear a favorite song, flying, flying, flying like a honeybee that counts the flaps of its wings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keeping everything else alive. Bubbles on the honeycomb coming together in unusually warm weather. Honeybee, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keeping everything else alive. And finally, we're going to wrap this baby up with the only way that it can end. It's called Citizenship. You might have heard this one before. Well, it's easy for your mom to spend Friday night trying to lecture the TV while half asleep, continuously saying, "Let it all breathe," when she's not the one out there braving the wind, trying to walk across that wing with just a 4-foot stick of balsa wood to help keep her balance. The Tsar's personal physician put the head of surgery in bed, called his staff around and explained this could be the end, but he's not really certain because he's just been too depressed at the prospect. At least that's what you thought, he said, but you were quite distracted by the kissing couple on the observation deck. And you got yelled at for sleeping during the meeting by the head of marketing, but you didn't feel any guilt as you explained that you had been sin-free since the night before, and the head of marketing agreed and closed the door to talk about opportunities for advancement. And the private still cannot figure out how to break ranks or how to help your mom fill out a loan application or get a new sticker for her license plates. And the two of you prepare for their weekend leave by getting hair extensions and hitchhiking back to the hospital. You've been reading diaries, you've been reading autobiographies, you've been writing long treatises out on graph paper, you've been condescending to your enemies, you've been giving away easy answers that argue there are no easy answers. You've been running forensics on untabulated statistics. You've been staring down a man buzzsawing at a tree, thinking anyone but me. You've been miming in a marching band, not playing a single note all season. You've been looking at the apple in your hand, hoping to know how you'll find another, while you have also stolen mail from your mother. You've been looking at a fence, thinking enough of this. You've been back at the hospital, staying after hours in the maternity ward, laying newly minted silver rectangles on newborns' chests. You've been counseling dry drunks. You're nearer to sovereignty and whoever picks apples for free. You've been painting large unfinished arcs on your foyer walls while in expensive new clothes. You've been nearer to sovereignty and whoever spends apples for free. You've been barefoot while feeding skunks. You've been seeing your reflection in cardboard. Let it all breathe is the reminder that you whisper to yourself when you're out walking across the wing, watching flotsam from Beechcraft Model 18s rotate overhead, amazed how machinery so heavy can defy gravity. Let it all breathe is a reminder that you whisper to yourself when you're out walking across the wing, watching jettison pollution floating in the Indian Ocean in utter disbelief how the laws of nature can be defied so carelessly. You are a wing walker, closer to sovereignty, closer to picking apples for free, closer to crashing the fence, closer to opening books. You are a wing walker trying to make a future full of stars while feeling some affectionate bite marks. You are a wing walker, closer to sovereignty, closer to spreading apple seeds for free, closer to swimming naked, closer to learning languages. You are a wing walker trying to make a future full of stars, wishing that you weren't feeling so far. But they found me, realistically resembling myself and fully alive in a different year. Questions were drawn to determine how I appeared there. I explained that I went to sleep because I couldn't function being constantly awake, with theta waves turning back on themselves, spindle waves with no chance to crest, and the slow waves never coming close to arriving. A wing walker craves immunity to maintain sovereignty, feeds on concentration to maintain sovereignty, and brushes memories to maintain sovereignty. And theta waves are just the start. Spindle waves stand you straight up. Slow waves safely deposit you back to the shore. A wing walker needs clear vision to be free of poison. You have to know where to turn on the lights before you go to sleep. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep. Go home and go to sleep. Go to sleep, go to sleep. Go to sleep, go to sleep, go home and go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go home and go to sleep, go to sleep, to sleep, go to sleep, go home and go to sleep, go to sleep, go to sleep, go home and go to sleep. And folks, with that, that wraps up another edition of the Quarantine Stream. My name is Richard Millett. All of the things that I've created can be found at fluxlifeinc.com. Please enjoy. And I will see you next week. And until next time, my good friends, just remember. Good night, everyone. God bless. Bye.